So, in the story, it started with divorce. I went through an intense depression. If that's what you call it in the story, it's depression, right? I went through this intense, that's why I don't like wearing bras. I fucking hate it because, yeah. Anyways, I don't want to get into that, but I went through this intense divorce, and it was so bad that, as a matter of fact, before divorce, I just lived an ordinary life. Like, I wasn't religious. There was no spirituality. Like, I wasn't into any of that. Like, I just lived an ordinary life. Did I believe that there was a God? I did, because that's something that I was told through my mom, that there was a God, right? So, of course, I'm going to believe what my mother tells me because she's my mother. But anyways, I didn't, go to church. I didn't pray. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just lived an ordinary life. I was always into like astrology. Like, that was my thing. That was my belief. My belief was astrology. I was really, really into it. Not so much tarot, although I was fascinated by it, but I wasn't really into all that tarot readings and stuff. But I was into mystical things. I'm not, but metaphysical things like that, though. Like, I thought it was cool. But as far as like religion and spirituality and stuff like that, no, I just never once got into any of that type of stuff. I just wasn't into it. But, shortly after divorce happened, I was so like depressed. I didn't like myself. I wanted to change the way I looked because I just couldn't understand why the divorce happened the way it did. I thought maybe it was something that I did, or the way I looked. When divorce happens, it's like you go through this grieving process. It's like it's like the person died, but they didn't, because, it's the end. And, it's a grieving process. So anyways, shortly after divorce is when I became religious. I had went to a friend, and, I was constantly going to friends because I was I was seeking out help because I just didn't want to feel what I was feeling. And my girlfriend at the time had told me, like, reach out to God. Have you spoken to God? And I'm just looking at her lost because, no, I have never done that, right? And I was like, well, how do you do that? And she goes, well, open up a Bible or go to church. And I was like, well, I don't even have a Bible. But anyways, it just so happens I ended up finding a Bible actually in my house. It was in my dresser drawer, but it was my ex-husband's. I didn't even know he owned a Bible. He had hid it. I didn't know. But I started reading the Bible, and something came over me. I don't know what that was. At the time, I thought it was God. But now it's like, I don't even know what that was. All I heard was this voice that came out from nowhere. Like, I literally heard it. In the story, I heard this. I heard, I am God. I am real. You are one of God's children. Come to me and be saved. Okay? And it was very powerful. And it was so powerful that I ended up getting anxiety over it. Like, I felt something heavy over me. And it was so powerful that it was just, it was a heavy presence. And at the time, if you would have asked me, I'd have said it was God because that's what I was hearing, right? But that doesn't mean that it's what the narrative is when it comes to God, the story of God, whatever. Because no one knows what that is. No one knows, but people will say, oh, it's the creator, they created you and blah, blah, blah. But that's just the story. That's just what was written by someone. And I don't even know who that someone is. And I don't even know if what was written was true because no one knows. Not even the person that quote unquote wrote the Bible. Like, it's all to me made up, and it's the dream. It's the story. But at the time, it felt very real to me. And I believed it to be this, powerful being that, this creator, the story behind God. I believed in all of that. So anyways, which pushed me towards church. And that's when I decided to start going to church. And I had become so fucking religious, dude. Like, I was so in it. I was so in it that I found myself doing what Christians do. It says in the Bible that you should not, thou shalt not judge. But religious people judge the most out of anyone in the story. And I found myself being that person, and I was like literally believing in some of the things that was written as far as like, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. You'll go to hell if you do this and that, whatever. Even as far as when it came down to repenting. I mean, not repenting, but, repenting too, but tithing. I felt like if I didn't give my money to the church, that, I would have to go through some type of, I'd have to answer to him. I'm pointing up because that's the story, right? Of God, and we're heaven and all that is. But anyways, it was just crazy. And I feared God more than you know what I mean? And when you start to feel like that, I felt trapped. It did not feel good. I felt trapped. And I said, this cannot be it. Like, I shouldn't feel like this. So eventually I walked away from religion. It was actually shortly after I met my twin flame, my quote unquote twin flame. I walked away from religion after we split up. We went our separate ways. I walked completely away from religion. And anyways, the whole twin flame thing happened. But I had met my twin flame before that too, though. Remember, I had 3. So before religion, I encountered my twin flame. The first one. Didn't know it was a twin flame, okay? I didn't know what the fuck was going on. All I knew, it was the dude. He felt familiar. I recognized him, and I didn't understand it. And I kind of just went with, oh, it's my kindred spirit. Even though I didn't even know what a kindred spirit was. I didn't know what the fuck that was. But, I just went off of what other people said it was. Right? So yeah. But then 2 years, and then once I got into religion, shortly after, me and him, we split ways. We stopped talking. And then I met the second one when I was in religion, really in it. And then shortly after me and him split, I walked away from religion completely. Okay? I don't know if this is all confusing, but anyways, sorry. But yeah. And through the time that I had walked away from religion, and I was still in the whole twin flame runner chaser, blah, 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 just going through this whole thing with the second one, with the second twin flame. I was going through all that shit again, having to revisit the whole thing again after the first twin flame. Okay. Going through the runner chaser bullshit and all that stuff. But while I was doing all that, spirituality came along, just walking and knocking on my door. And I really love spirituality, like all the like levels you had to go through to reach certain things, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember it all. I really don't, but I was very spiritual for several years. It lasted a long time, almost close to like 4 years, 4 or 5 years. But I want to say 4 because shortly after 4 years is when realization appeared to happen for me. When I realized that spirituality had limited beliefs just like religion did. But I loved being spiritual. That was my thing. And there was one person that I followed, and that was Anna Brown. And I followed her when she was spiritual. And I resonated so much with her. But when she started to talk about non-duality, I didn't understand it. So eventually I kind of like stopped following her because I just didn't resonate. I tried, but I didn't understand with what she was talking about. And then, I don't know, one day I went back to watch her again. And after that, I couldn't stop watching her. I couldn't stop watching, I just couldn't stop watching her. I wanted to know more about non-duality. And at the time, I didn't even know it was non-duality that she was talking about. I was just so fascinated by what she was talking about. And I resonated, but then I didn't. I wanted to understand. I had to know more. And then shortly after that, Ariana happened. And with her, she made it seem so magical. And I still felt that spiritual vibe. So I was really fascinated by her, and I was really trying to understand. I wanted to get to where she was. And then shortly after that, Kenneth Madden happened, and that was it. Realization hit me, boom, so hard. Like, it was like all of a sudden it was in your face type of shit. Like, things that I thought were true was just a story. And it wasn't true. Like, literally, I remember walking out of my house, getting in my car, driving around, and when I looked at a tree, I didn't identify with it as a tree. I didn't know what it was. The sky I didn't identify the sky as a sky. I didn't know what that was. I didn't identify with the bird as a bird. I didn't know what that was. But I was amazed by it. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what amazed, but it was this sense of, oh, wow, what is that? Like when a baby's born, all the baby sees is the view. It doesn't identify with anything. It just sees the view. So it felt like I had just been born, even though I don't even know what that is. That's another program we were taught. We were taught we were born. But we don't know if we were born. We don't know what that's called. But apparently in the story, we're born. And what I was looking at in the sky is a bird. In the story, the bird wasn't a bird anymore. I didn't know what that was. All I saw was the view. But in the story, there's this realization, right? That everything is the story, and that is a tree, and that's the sky, and that's a house, and this is a couch I'm sitting on, right? Blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, the moment I got in my car that day, and I don't remember what day it was. I don't remember. I just remember being in the car and everything that I thought I knew was real became foreign to me. It almost looked like a cartoon. It didn't look real. And the reason why it didn't look real is because there was no more identifying with it. There was no labels, no story around it anymore. Well, that's a tree because a person plants a seed and it grows from the ground, right? There's no more story there anymore of why it is what it is or what it is, really. Like, there's no story of what that is or how it even happened. Because we don't know if it happened. Because even happen is a label. There's no more story. But I binge watched the shit out of Kenneth Madden. I tell you what, I couldn't stop watching him. Just like I couldn't stop watching Ariana. I was really trying to get it with her. I was really trying to get it, but I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get there. I was reaching. I was seeking still. I was wanting to know. I was trying to understand non-duality. And if you watch non-dual teachers, they'll tell you this is not an understanding. You will never understand this. It will happen when it happens. Understanding will happen when it happens. You can't learn it. And that's just it. You can't even understand it really because it's not, you can't learn it. Because how can you learn something that's unknown? You can't learn it because it's unknown. There's no telling of how and why things are the way they are, and we don't even know if it's things, because that's another label. It's just blah blah blah, and we don't even know if it's blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't fucking matter because, like I say all the time, everything is the story. And all there is labels and concepts and narratives, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's all there is. So if you can't beat them, join them, right? And there was a time where I was super uncompromising and very hard on myself because I realized that everything was the story, and it was like, I couldn't stop saying it. Like I couldn't even be around people without saying it. Like the things that they would talk about, I'm like, yeah, but that's just the story. That's not real. So I knew like, okay, I knew something was wrong because I still was trying to fit into that box. I was still trying to You know what I mean? And I felt trapped. But then once realization hit, being uncompromising and hard on myself about being in the story was no longer. It was just, it is what it is. And that's all there is. It is what it is, and that's all there is. And there's no getting out of that. I realized that spirituality was just a dream. It was made up. Religion is made up. Everything is made up, but not. You know what I'm saying? Like, apparently something's happening, but then not happening because we don't know anything. But yeah, and I don't even know why I came on here to talk about this, but I feel like it was, it happened. I mean, it's what's happening, and it's okay. But I think it's because when it came up, I was like, my gosh. I look back now, and it's like I don't. Yeah. Anyways. I love you. Mwah.